During the Presage mission, we got a closer glimpse at the chaos the darkness can unleash. This ship was full of Cabal experimenting on Scorn, and while some brainwashed Scorn still remain like the Locusts, the Cabal here suffered a much different fate, some being consumed by these plants and fungal growths. Today we are going to discuss the ties these plants may have to the darkness and read some descriptions that might give us a little heads up before Lightfall's arrival.
Several months ago, a Cabal vessel disappeared near the reef. Guardian, you're not the only life sign aboard. There's no light here.
Let's first begin with what we see on the Glykon. Now I'll let some clips roll out here, but we can see these flowers with tentacle-like arms that reach around the space. If you played the mission, you clearly know what I'm talking about. So with these flowers, some are normal, like a normal flower pointing a certain direction, for example, while others are holding on to objects like a vine. The biggest example of this is the end with our guardian Catabasis. Now most might think, well, it's just some type of alien flower who says it has to be related to the darkness. Well, it doesn't, but given that we've seen this before and the lore entries we have, it most likely does. If you give closer examination and look around the ship with some detail, you'll see these fungal growth type sections that seem to take over parts of the rooms, much like the Flood kinda did in the Halo franchise. So we can see these flowers, but if you look below you can see what they're sprouting out from, this gunk scattered all around the floor. So this looks sort of like some type of infection, and whatever caused this doesn't seem too friendly. Whether it's some type of natural occurrence because it's a plant, think something like a Venus flytrap, it tries to close on its prey, or something like an alien infection that was planted here, it's definitely not for the better. We know this ship was surrounded in the darkness, as Osiris says there is no light here, and the Crown of Sorrow, the hive thing that corrupts a lot of beings, is also on board. So when we take a look at the lore for this mission, the Glykon, we don't know what happened to Catabasis. We know he died, obviously, it was most likely due to the darkness, but all we can visually see here is these flowers holding his dead body. Now I did mention the Crown of Sorrow is on board. If you've seen my previous video, we know that this is directly below Catabasis in a room yet to be unlocked. You can see it by glitching though. So did the Crown of Sorrow cause this flower type corruption, or was this more to do with the darkness? Let's next compare these plants to others we've actually seen in the Destiny universe. First up, aboard Calus's Leviathan. Now this one is kind of a stretch, but we know that the Glykon was a zone for Calus to experiment on the Scorn and try to talk to the darkness or obtain it. After the Glykon arrived near the reef, Calus brought the Crown of Sorrow on the ship to assist in his madness and plans. Once the pyramids arrived, the ship was shrouded in darkness and then Calus disappeared elsewhere. But what we know Calus also had was many different types of plants on board his own starship, the Leviathan. So take a look at these from the Pleasure Gardens, which is one of the locations in the first raid. So these are very similar for sure. If you played that raid, the mechanic is kind of the same. Some players have to sneak around close to the plants, while the others above have to use this prism type thing to shoot the plant and make it explode, giving the others a buff. So same type of thing going on here, at least mechanic wise. There do appear to be some differences though physically. The spores from the garden open like a flower when destroyed and kind of pop with a purple color. The darkness containment flowers, on the other hand, they are much more different in color and don't really pop, but sort of change color and give off a sound. So I mean, this could have been some flowers Calus brought onto the Glykon that got infected by the darkness and caused some of this we see, but we don't know for sure. That's just some speculation thrown out there. The likely explanation is that it was caused by whatever makes these flowers, perhaps something related to the darkness itself. Next up, the Drifter's ship, the Derelict. Back a couple of years ago when we had the season of the Drifter, we got to learn more about the Nine, had some cutscenes with the Drifter, and can even explore part of his ship that we can't currently access. Now you can still board his ship to some extent if you load up the Prophecy Dungeon and explore the startup room here with the portal, but the back room itself is blocked off. If you were to head to that back room though, you would see the same flowers aboard the Glykon. This was the first time we've witnessed what these flowers look like.
Yeah, I'd go out there with you. Let a pond my Gallahorn. Shucks. Get ready.
We know that the Drifter had his ship normally, as you can see from this part in the cutscene at the very beginning, and then he was gifted this haul by the Nine.
Ah, not anymore. It's Drifter now.
You have proven yourself worthy. Accept this gift from the Nine.
A gift? What gift?
So these colors, to me at least, resemble these darkness flowers and fungal growths pretty closely. The flowers seem to have begun to invade the Drifter's ship, maybe because he's towing this thing around, perhaps that's where they came from, but we can clearly see the connection between these flowers infecting the Drifter ship, the Derelict, and also the Glykon in the other case. So the Nine gifted the Drifter this haul. Now it's also explained in the lore, I believe, that this might have been taken from the icy world that Drifter visited that had light repressing creatures. So my big question is, these flowers are the same on the Drifter's ship. Why didn't it infect him? Does he know something that we don't? Or did this darkness decide not to do anything to him? It's kind of interesting. Let's next take a look at some lore entries that could hint towards the darkness and maybe even the nature of these flowers. First up, the Darkness lore card from Destiny 1. Now this card has many different explanations of what the darkness possibly was. Different characters describe what they thought it was in the universe, and we never really knew what it actually was, right? But it's not the lore here that's the interesting part, it's the image for the card itself. So this could just be a coincidence, but these look exactly like the egregore sacks that we shoot in the mission. We can also see these strands reaching out on top of the blurred image. That's these lines here that I'm describing. Now these could be the flowers we see, but the blue circles for sure definitely resembles what we see on the Glykon. Next up, we have a description from the Black Armory lore that details the creatures that invaded during the collapse. Last night we awoke in the middle of the night to the sound of something pounding on the walls. It roared and stomped and howled in frustration until it found the doors. They didn't hold. I never saw it. We were too occupied blindly firing around the corner. I just remember the smell of wet earth and a sound I've never heard before, like a machine being stretched and then compressed. So this card brings up a cool theory. It describes the smell of wet earth as if it's something natural. Now we've looked at this concept art from Bungie before and said, hey, maybe that's the creature that was stomping around. It definitely could be. But what we see on the Glykon could also resemble this wet earth type stuff. Now to me it looked like something happened aboard the ship that caused all this chaos. Maybe the creatures left after they killed them and the flowers are the remnants, but I'm not sure. Now what was really groundbreaking during the time when this lore came out is that it gave us one, a description, but two, also sounds to put along with that, a machine being stretched and then compressed. In the new Presage mission, we do hear some sounds, some spooky sounds actually, while exploring this ship. This could be the Scorn just moving around the ship, the Locust perhaps, but to me some of these seem more deep and like something we've never heard before. That could be the case, or it could also just be the Scorn. Take a listen.
Like ripples meeting in conversation. Executing trace. Stand by.
But Guardians, that's all we got for today's video. If you look into this and further analyze some of these sounds, some of the lore descriptions, and maybe some we haven't read here, definitely be sure to let the rest of us know down below, because we could be getting onto something big here. Anyway, if you'd like to see some more Destiny mysteries just like this one, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching. My name's Evade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.